Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Annapolis Board of Appeals regular virtual meeting for November 16th, 2022. This meeting is being broadcast on the City of Annapolis YouTube channel. My name is Bob Gallagher. I chair the Board of Appeals. This virtual format allows the public to observe the meeting through video link and to submit written comments through the City of Annapolis website. Links to the YouTube channel, the comment forum on the city's website, and the database that contains information relating to the cases you may hear about tonight, all may be found on the agenda for tonight's meeting. The folks that you see on the screen are the members of the board. When a case is called, the representatives of the parties to the case will also appear on the screen. Also participating in the meeting are recording secretary Kim Consoli, our broadcast technician this evening is Madeline. Also participating may be representatives of the city's attorney's office, board counsel, and of course, Jackie Rouse, the liaison to the board. We also could have one or more other members of the planning and zoning staff present. So any public comments received by noon today in the matters before the board this evening have been provided to the board, and the parties will be made part of the record. The public may also submit comments on any case continued tonight to a future meeting until noon on the day of the future meeting. So we ask everyone but members of the board to mute their audio. If anyone else wishes to speak during the meeting, please raise your hand and I'll call on you to speak. Let me remind everyone that communications with the board about any case by anyone other than a party to the case must go through the comment forum. All communications by parties must go through board liaison Jackie Rouse. No one should contact any member of the board directly about any case. So with that, we'll start the business. Yes.
I believe Lisa Bell may be in the waiting room, and could we ask Madeline?
I've sent her the prompt a couple of times. She just has to accept it to come in.
Okay, thank you, Madeline.
Thanks, Jackie. So we'll begin the business part of the meeting by asking Ms. Consoli to call the roll, please.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Dr. Chen.
Present.
We were expecting Mr. Zazali, but he isn't here yet.
All right. And Mr. Hector.
Mr. Hector does not plan to come, he told me.
Okay. All right. So we have a quorum. We'll keep going. Have the members of the board had a chance to review the agenda? Do we have any corrections or additions?
None. I move that the agenda be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's approved. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for November 16th, 2022. If you've had a chance to review those, do you have any corrections or additions to the minutes?
None.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move the minutes be of the November 16th meeting be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Mr. Zazali has joined us. Thank you, Chris.
I was having a little trouble with the hotel Wi-Fi, but I persevered.
Our road warrior appears.
We're glad.
Flown in at great expense.
All right. So the minutes have been approved. We get to our first application of the evening. We'll consider application VAR 2022-007 by owners Jonathan and Allison Lenoci, property owners for a reduction to the interior side yard setback for construction of a two-story addition to the existing dwelling located at 16 Glen Avenue. Let me ask if Kim is on.
I am.
Have we had any public comments on this case?
No, we have not.
All right. Are there any questions from the board about this case before we begin deliberations? No? Okay.
No.
So Kim Consoli will mark the staff report and all of its exhibits as exhibits and evidence. Who would like to begin with our deliberations?
I'll take it, Bob.
Please go ahead.
After hearing the testimony that was submitted, both orally and in writing from the applicant and from their architect, as well as, I find that their application for a variance should be approved. It is a unique property. It appears to be unique in a lot of respects, and given its age and its current composition. So I believe it satisfies the criteria for the granting of variance, and I'd be in favor of approving it.
Dr. Chen?
Mr. Chairman, I also am in favor of approving it. I appreciated the explanation as to the size of the planned upstairs and needing to be of a certain size to make it livable. So I also agree that this should be approved.
Yeah, I tend to agree with both of you. I think they've more than satisfied each of the 7 requirements for the granting exemption. So is there a motion to approve the exemption? Or the variance?
Mr. Chairman, I move that variance VAR 2022-007 be approved with any conditions that believe, Kim, there were no conditions placed on this outside of the usual building permit requirements? And
There were not.
And it would be in compliance with the plans that were submitted by Spire Architecture?
Correct.
Correct. So I would approve that I would make a motion that it be approved under those conditions.
For a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I
All right, that's unanimous. Congratulations, Jonathan and Allison. Enjoy your new addition. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
So,
board. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll excuse the parties to 2207. And we will get a draft, we'll get a written decision out in due course. So next we turn to variance 2022-008, application by David Gage and Deborah Conlon, property owners, for reduction to the average waterway yard setback for construction of an enclosed porch on the existing deck over an existing concrete patio at the dwelling located at 697 Glendon Avenue. We have had extensive additional comments submitted on that, mainly from and on behalf of and support of objections by the neighbors, including a lengthy dissertation on the issues by Mr. Schwenk, counsel for the next door neighbor. And those, of course, will all become part of the record. We will mark those exhibits as exhibits along with the photos that were attached and the drawings that were attached, as well as the staff report and the application and all the exhibits that were submitted with that. So I just had one question. The factual record is closed on this, and we had the conclusion summarized by Kim Burke from Planning and Zoning and included in the staff report that the air and light would not be impaired. I just had one quick question for Kim. That testimony, Kim, that the air and light would not be impaired, Was that based on the drawings and photos and testimony that you've heard? Or did you also personally visit the site?
Yes, I have been to the site, and I have, it was also based on the testimony.
Okay, thanks. So, unless there are other questions from the board, I think we're, there's been a request from Mr. Schwenk to comment in person this evening. It came in late this afternoon. As I mentioned, we had his extensive written comments on behalf of his client, the next door neighbor. So I'll exercise my discretion to deny that request. I think all the facts that are relevant to the case have been presented to us, and we'll move ahead with our deliberations if that's all right with the board.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with that. I just had a question for Kim, if she could just clarify something for me. I just want to make sure I'm reading the map correctly, Kim. That's been submitted by Spire, and your staff report indicates that the closest point of the building to the water's edge is 37 feet 6 inches. Is that correct? If I'm looking at that correctly?
Yes.
I see in the submission made by the attorney for the adjoining property maintains that it's actually 30 feet. So we are certain that it's 37.6.
I'm just going by what the applicant provided us. Either way, the proposed screen porch is further away than the closest point to the water.
Right, it's no closer.
Correct.
Right.
And the BEA standards don't allow anything 30 feet or closer to the water.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Chairman Gallagher, there's one small issue that I didn't mention in my, or I didn't focus on in my commentary that wouldn't take more than a second, but
I'm
that I think is worth.
I'm sorry, we've decided we're not going to hear argument on that. We've got the record closed, and it's going to stay closed. So thank you for your extensive written comments. We've read them and understand them and appreciate them. All right, who would like to begin deliberations?
I will offer to step into that breach if nobody else is willing to. No, nobody's dying to step in. So there's a few points along the way, along the arc of this presentation last month that struck with me, and some of the conditions that are required. You know, we've touched on light and air here a little bit, and I've read the 44 pages that were added to the record late, and along with the original testimony and the original plans and the original citing of the lines. And I do not feel that this is just one opinion, that the screened-in porch will impact light and air in a way that would require a denial. There may be other reasons, but on that one point, I don't know. We've certainly had trickier applications with tighter lots that we've approved, and this one does not rise to the standard for impeding, in my opinion, and reading and the interpretation. But I'm curious to hear some other opinions on that one point.
Yeah, I'm the one who focused on that, Christian. Going back and looking over all the evidence, and particularly in light of the fact that Kim also visited it, I'm convinced that there's not an impairment that would cause us to deny the variance. So that's not an issue for me.
So Bob, may I make a suggestion? As chair, you could maybe lead us through the standards, and we could take them as they come, and a little more.
Yeah, sure. Give me a second to get it up here.
Yep, sure.
You testing me, Christian?
I will tell you where to find them, but you have me at a disadvantage, sir. I am in Park City, Utah.
They're in my letter.
That's all right. I've got them here. 2150, 212850. Okay, the first, of course, is because of the particular physical surroundings, shape, or typographical conditions of the specific property, a particular hardship to the owner would result, is distinguished from a mere inconvenience.
And I think this is in my opinion, probably our heaviest lift on behalf of the
Yeah.
applicant here.
I agree.
And we have struggled with this in our responsibility as board members to define unique and hardship versus inconvenience and so on and so forth. And it's difficult to use that language when considering a house of this magnitude on a lot of this magnitude with the views and access to the water and the 56 windows, and that something at all is a hardship. Hardship is not what I would use to describe this property, right? And what we don't do on this board is explore other options. We don't explore, well, how could a screened-in porch be brought into compliance within the standards, or what other options are available? We're charged with answering the question, this screened-in porch in this application, right?
Yeah.
So that's really where we find ourselves tonight.
I would suggest that the other side of that argument is, this is one of those situations where you've got a house that was built long before the setbacks were put in place. And if the setbacks were literally applied, you really couldn't build anything there.
Right.
I'm very sympathetic to that. So in those cases, I look at the hardship standard a little differently.
Agreed.
And if the proposal is within the existing structure, that tells me that, in my view, that there's you can see a hardship if they're not allowed to make an improvement to something that's already there.
Right. I found myself going down the path of, could this house been originally built? Had it been designed with a screened-in porch in that position that one is proposed now, would it have been allowed to be built then? Right? It's not too dissimilar than your line of thinking. And it probably would have been. I don't know that, right? That's conjecture. But, if those plans went through the city, what year was it built, Kim? What was the original year? 80s?
1998.
98? In 98, if those plans came through with a screened-in porch there, would it have caused a problem? No, it probably would have had to do all the same things it had to do in 1998 to build it. So now, like things have changed, right? We know more about the impact of our building, even in that short 2.5 decades. So we were looking more closely than we did in 1998. Does that answer the question? No. But
if we're ready for the condition B,
yep.
The condition upon which the petition for variation is based are unique to the property for which the variance is sought and are not applicable generally to other properties within the same zoning classification. Well, we've approved lots of applications as unique, where it's a square lot on a block of square lots, and here you've got
right.
Very unusual
pork chop.
Yeah,
It's a pretty
Right. I think this is the weakest standard in the requirement.
Yes.
okay. So the purpose of the variance is not based on exclusively upon a desire to increase financial gain.
I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, the porch might add some value, but it's probably not going to increase the value as much as it costs to build it.
It's certainly not going to be the deal breaker for somebody buying or not buying that.
No.
D, the alleged difficulty has not been created by any present or previous owners of the property, whether individual or entity. So,
I look at these, Bob, as somebody sold off a parcel and, created an environment that's,
right. I don't see that as a problem.
I don't, that's not.
The variance will not impair adequate light and air, that's what we just talked about. And
Yeah.
finally, within the intent and purpose of the zoning code, the variance, if granted, is a minimum variance necessary to afford relief. Well, I guess my view of that is, should we make them build or enclose a smaller part of the porch? It doesn't make much sense to me. It's not a huge area that they propose to enclose.
I think as long as the roof that's going onto the screen porch doesn't run afoul of the permeability
Yeah.
requirements.
On that point, Nadine, I am a little concerned about the conflict in the testimony over what's happening underneath, about whether there'll be additional paving under there. And as you can tell, I think I'm inclined to vote in favor of this, but I would do so suggesting an additional condition that limits any additional paving underneath the deck.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that would be wise.
And I think this is another one of those opinion-based requirements, minimum, whose opinion, whose version of minimum, right? But I think the reasonable person would argue that, yeah, it's a reasonable screened-in porch. It's not extravagant. It's not out of character. It's the minimum reasonable, minimal practical. There's some extra words missing there.
And the area where the screen porch is being installed or proposed to be built is already a structure. You already have the measurements of something in place there. So it's not as though we're adding anything in floor space greater. It's already there.
Chairman Gallagher, the point I was trying to make was.
I'm sorry,
underneath this-
Madeline, would you please mute Mr. Schwenk?
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the one that was the only one that was a little squishy, Bob. What was the second one, or what was the only?
The
The first one,
hardship, or you?
Hardship.
and the mere inconvenience.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I was very interested in the letter that we received from the applicant's dermatologist that indicated that there was some previous cases of skin cancer with regard to the applicants.
I don't want to be insulting to anyone, but my understanding of the rules that we apply are that we don't take that into account. That's not part of the hardship.
Okay, I was wondering
And
how that would apply.
Neither do we take into account the cross allegations of misconduct by neighbors against each other.
Correct.
And we don't have any authority to go investigate or do anything to correct any past violations of the critical area rules. Those are all red herrings that I think at least Mr. Schwenk and Mr. Christoph should have no part in this determination. Anyway.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I again, on this point, I think if you recall from my line of questioning during the original application hearing was, I was really struggling with the hardship versus mere inconvenience. And hearing your discussion, particularly the point you made about the adoption of some differences in the codes as the original building in 1998, Makes a difference
Well,
to me.
no,
I
I
was
think
not,
the changes have not been since 1998. The changes were after the lot was plotted, I think.
after the lot was plotted, excuse me. Thank you for making that more specific. Yeah, I was troubled that representatives of the applicant were making arguments that didn't necessarily make a strong case for a hardship as to a mere inconvenience, such as mosquitoes, summer, thing of that nature. To your point earlier about that's really not what the code requires us to consider. But I do find that Mr. Jakubiec in his short presentation and in the staff report as to the actual physical condition of the lot has more of a bearing about what is an inconvenience and what is a hardship. And I think the point you made earlier, and Christian as well, that could this have been built, a similar home of this type, it probably would have been a hardship if you were to do it today. And so I'm more inclined to come down on the side of hardship as opposed to a mere inconvenience.
Yeah, I would agree with you, because I go along the lines of, where could he build a screened-in porch on this property? He doesn't have that opportunity.
No.
It's not, oh, just put it over there. And we've had people come in and say, I want to put my shed here. Why? Well, because it's more convenient for me to get to it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not but this applicant is left with no alternative. There's no convenient alternative, if you will.
Yeah.
Does the applicant need a screened-in porch?
I don't think that we're here to answer that question. He has the right to ask if he's allowed to build one, and then it's our job to determine whether he does. And the inconvenience, there is no convenient location. There is only a hardship. Right? If we could point to a spot on his property and say, build it there. But I don't think we can.
Oh, to your point, it's this application in front of us now, we're not there to direct.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, do we think we're ready to vote?
Yeah.
All right, someone like to make a motion?
I'll take a crack at it. Motion to approve variance 2002-008 for the reduction of the average water setback as stated forth in the application for the reasons set forth in the staff report, the evidence submitted, supplement information, and our deliberations. I find that they have met the requirements necessary to approve the variance.
Subject to
condition.
Subject to conditions, and Bob, go ahead and I will allow you to edit my motion with regard to impervious surface.
to a condition that will limit the addition of more paved area under the deck.
We'll change that to impervious.
Yeah.
Okay.
There a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. So I'll ask staff and Mr. Christoph, if they'd like to submit a draft of that new condition for us to take a look at as we draft our written decision. I thank council and all of those who chose to comment for their comments, staff for their hard work up on this. And we'll get out a written decision as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll excuse the folks from that case, and we'll take up our last application for the night. The new one, this is variance 2022-009, an application by property owner Patricia Cousins for a variance from the side yard setback to add a bay window to the property at 60 South Gate Avenue. Who would like to introduce that for the city? So Jackie.
The Board. This is Jackie Rouse. So this is a variance request to a corner side yard requirement for a property that is located at the intersection of Southgate and Colonial Avenue, where they are doing a renovation to the home, primarily interior renovation, and they wish to add a bay window to the dining room, the existing dining room. And in order to do that, they need a variance to the corner side yard setback. And I believe this house was built in 1920. It was built when, and it does not currently meet the side yard or the corner side yard setback for this district. And the lot is substandard under the R2 single family residence district requirements. So we will allow the applicant to present in more detail to you if you wish. The applicant is here. Her name is Patricia Cousins, and her architect is also present. That's Jay Schwartz.
So Jackie, you are satisfied the notice and posting requirements have been satisfied?
We are satisfied that the posting requirements were done properly, the notice requirements were done properly, and that was all done. There were no problems with that.
And have there been any public comments?
We have received no public comments on this. One more thing I do want to point out, there's an existing shed that's actually at 0 feet in the general kind of area of where the bay window is being proposed, and they plan to remove that when they construct the bay window.
I don't want to testify, but this house is in my neighborhood. So let me just ask you, Jackie, I walk by there. It's a corner lot, right?
Mhm.
So it has 2 sides facing the street. And the side where the bay window is proposed faces the street. So it doesn't face any next door neighbor.
Correct.
Doesn't really impact any next door neighbor.
That's correct.
And the footprint of the house is not changing at all. All they're doing is sticking in a bay window.
And doing other interior renovations not required.
Just external.
All right, so Ms. Cousins, Mr. Schwartz, we've read the file. It looks pretty straightforward. If you think there's something that's important that's been left out that we need to know, we invite you to tell us about it. But there's no need to go back and go over everything you've covered in your submissions.
Thanks so much, Jay Schwartz, the architect. Appreciate it. I think Ms. Rouse has done a fine job relating the issues. If Patty Cousins, if you want to say a few words, you're muted right now.
Good evening. Thank you. We've moved to Murray Hill about 1.5 years ago. We very much love the neighborhood and the house. Again, we're making some modest improvements to make the house more livable, and the existing door on the side of the house has created confusion for people as to where to enter the house, as well as when we had an alarm go off, the police went to the wrong door. So, from a security perspective, we really like to switch it out for the bay window.
Any questions from members of the board?
I'll jump in since I haven't gone first yet. Ms. Cousins, so there was a door. I just want to clarify for the record, there was a door there. There were no windows there before. So you are putting in the bay windows so that you increase the light inside your house.
There is a door and there's a window adjacent to the door. So both the existing door would be removed as well as that one window, and it would be replaced by a bank of 3 windows to increase the light in the house.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicants or staff? All right, so Ms. Cousins, Mr. Schwartz, you understand that under our virtual procedure, we have to continue this until our next hearing, which I think will be on January 3rd, in order to provide an opportunity for anyone who needs to comment on whatever they've heard tonight. So the record will remain open until noon on January 3rd for additional public comments, if any, and we will try to render our decision for you on January 3rd. So thank you very much for your concise presentation.
Thanks so much. Have a good holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
So
See you in the new year.
two sort of administrative items I'll just mention quickly. At our January meeting, I think we've got two administrative details to deal with. Jackie, you'll have a draft annual report for us by then?
Yes, actually Kimberly is working on that.
Okay, great. So we'll take a look at that and hope
We're
we'll be
using
able-
the same format that you had from last year.
that'll be helpful. So we'll try to get that approved in January. And it's also our duty under our rules to elect a chair and vice chair to serve for the 2023 year. So I'd ask you to give that matter some thought. Is there something else, Jackie?
I just wanted to say that when we have a draft of the report done, would you like us to send it to you first so that you can
Yes.
add your comments before
Yes.
everyone reviews it on January 3rd? That's what we did last
Yeah,
year.
before you slander us, let us take a look at it.
Okay.
An exercise in character assassination, I'm sure.
Well, I think that you need to limit the amount of campaigning activity everybody does to be chair.
I'm regretting seeing my attendance record. I'm sure I've all those X's and O's where there should be.
Oh,
Doesn't matter.
your
It
attendance.
doesn't matter.
You've been a
Stalwart.
soldier calling in from God knows where.
Yeah.
half the
Yeah.
time.
I barely made this one. I was actually logging in the lobby as I was getting my hotel.
Oh, Christian, oh my God.
I'll never forget that time you were on the call and voting while you were giving CPR to somebody.
That is character assassination.
All right.
I was administering drugs, not CPR.
Oh, wow.
Any other business we need to take up?
I was wondering if I could check in on the request I made at the last meeting with regard to modifying how we do the first meeting, allowing comments so we don't necessarily have to do the second meeting in the same month.
We approved that, right?
I had approved that.
Right, so is that now going to happen or?
Yeah.
I didn't actually advertise the hearing tonight to be continued to the next meeting because I thought you had approved that as your new procedure.
Yeah, well, let's make it effective January 1st.
Okay.
That's tight.
Great.
Does the public, have they received instructions on how to,
Log in.
if I have a strong opinion on a bay window?
Well,
do
there
we-
is a blank on the comment form.
Right. We've activated the blank on the comment form so that.
Okay, got
so
it.
that you can check a box to give live testimony. That's. and
Perfect.
people can contact the
So,
office too.
I understand from Mark Hildebrand that there is a cutoff date for signing up for public testimony.
Also
Is
on the
that
motion.
going to be made clear? Because one can only imagine.
So
people-
that'll be noon on the day of the hearing as well?
No, it's days before.
No, it's noon. It's noon the day of a meeting that.
Oh,
we-
okay. Then maybe it
up to the
differs
meeting, we-
between
anybody- What
commissions.
happened with tonight with Mr. Schenk is that he had sent Kim an email that he could not put all of his comments into on the form. And, and so she did not look at the form because she assumed that he was just emailing her everything. But he had also, he had submitted the form and said he wanted, it was an oversight. He had said he wanted to give live testimony. We missed it. So that's what happened with that for tonight, but it's on the form. It says, you know, the deadline is noon the day of a meeting.
Okay, great.
So what we do at noon is we say, time's up, and then we tell Drea sometime right after noon to send out the Zoom invites to everybody,
Perfect.
public of participants.
Thank you.
And
Well,
I've
just-
told
just-
people when they've submitted late that they, you know, I'm sorry you missed the deadline, but it's right on the form. I think it's also even on it's on the form, and I think it's even on the agenda. I'm not
Right.
positive about that, but it's we do publicize that.
Thank
so.
you. Perfect.
But to be clear, Jack, yeah, on this last one, that the one by the attorney for tonight, I mean, we were still operating under our policy of
Right.
continuing a public hearing, and Bob allowed, the board allowed additional written testimony, but
Right.
yeah, so I mean, it's whether he
Starting
wanted to
in
testify or not was at our discretion.
Right.
Yeah.
Starting in January, you get one shot
Right.
because the hearing gets closed and you don't get to come back and submit additional pages of written testimony.
And then the expectation we would deliberate and vote on that same,
Yes,
yeah, okay, what would be the point of continuing it if we were just
right.
Right.
pushing
No,
down the
the-
vote?
Right.
I think this is a fine approach. It benefits
Okay.
the public, right? It's the minor inconvenience of signing up by noon is outweighed by the right to a speedy trial, if you will.
And
Well,
it also helps us with scheduling.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
We don't have to
Yeah.
worry about who was at which prior meeting.
Right.
Right.
That-
Exactly.
And we will not unless there are extenuating circumstances. Now, we're not actually taking all of the second meeting dates off the calendar, because if we did that, we would permanently lose they would take that night and give it away to
Somebody
someone
else to
else.
snap them up. Yeah.
So we're just, just marking those meetings as being canceled, but as a policy, unless there are extenuating circumstances, and I don't know what those would be, we would not be having second meetings in the month. We will
well,
just-
the extenuating
Basically,
circumstances would be
one meeting
if we get close to 11 o'clock, right? Like if this board agrees we have an 11 o'clock or hopefully earlier, but we're not grinding into the wee hours of the small dark morning here.
Well,
Like the bad old days.
Right.
Yes.
The days that shall not be named.
right, I was kind of visualizing that, then things would just get continued. Like tonight's got continued to the next regular meeting, which is January 3rd, the purpose of having a second meeting is if there were so many things that had to be scheduled,
I understand. I think
within a time
yeah.
frame, we would advertise them for another meeting, but
we
otherwise,
understand that we're hoarding nights. I get it.
following one. So,
Okay, is there another motion?
I
Motion
move
to-
to adjourn.
Motion to have a very happy, safe holiday season.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Second.